My Hero Academia, Season 3, Episode 15, titled The Test, continues the development of Class 1A as they proceed forward to the provisional license exam. They're still getting new equipment, still training their abilities, and trying to toughen up in order to compensate for a lot of their weaknesses, which plays a major part later down the line. But before that, we open up a little bit before the end of the last episode, where Mei hears Izuku's plans for a new costume that will help him, develop new leg-based techniques and support his arms that are basically falling apart off of his body. And Mei is more than excited about the situation, ready to create some new babies for Izuku. However, he doesn't want to change too much of his current look because his mommy made it for him and all that good stuff. She put so much love and dedication into it. Of course, he doesn't want it to change too much. Ultimately, her teacher decides that, if her design is good enough, it will be allowed to be put into production for Izuku's new costume, despite his overall objections to the whole situation. Mei also talks about the fact that Izuku should study a little bit more of Ida's style to better understand how he should move and act. How he should, incorporate the new designs into his look. Since, Ida is very much based like a, F1 engine, like a car. He's designed for speed and maneuverability. Even though personally I think a lot of the way he looks is a little too bulky for someone going for speed. But he plays it very well. A lot of the parts that are more heavy don't really, cover, his joints or anything. So, a good amount of flexibility on his part. So we pick up where the last episode, officially ended with Bakugo showing off his armor piercing shot. Some debris falls towards All Might. Izuku goes in. Talks about a little bit about his costume with arm braces, to support his arms, yes, and earns souls that act as, cleats to protect his feet from suffering the same kind of damage and destruction that his hands have faced. So we call this his shoot style, all for one full cow shoot style, which there's so many slashes. There's like one for all slash full cow slash shoot style. Like, damn, kid, you ain't even too far into all this, and you already have different variations on certain abilities. But he calls this his gamma costume. So the original one he had officially out the gate made by his mom was alpha. The one he had, revised since so much of his costume was destroyed after its initial test run was beta, and this is the gamma costume, which has a lot more practicality, honestly, as a whole. So it's very much good to see. Denki and Ejiro, Kaminari and Kirishima, show up, showing off their new looks and being very taken with Izuku's show of power and ability. They're very much in the hype. Although he does state that he hasn't quite gotten things down. He's still studying from Ida in order to learn how to move, and he's still just trying to get used to his overall ability, and doesn't think it's really ready to be called a signature move. However, All Might denies this, saying that it's more than enough, especially for the provisional license exam. Bakugo looks on at the whole situation with a bit of disdain and a scowl, as you very much see it on his face that he's a little bit taken aback at the fact that Deku is very much slowly catching up to Bakugo, and he's noticing that that gap is getting ever so, you know, smaller by the second. So Bakugo goes back to training full force. Um, we also have a slight aside with All Might kind of, you know, lamenting the fact that now he has to be someone who is protected. Before he was the great protector, now he can barely really even move or react to any given situation, which it's very sad, but you know, it also shows that there was a cost to everything and that things have very much changed from where we were in the first season by comparison. Um, the others, Kirishima and Kaminari, are kind of ready to show off what they got going and their new costumes and skills. I very much like the addition to, both of their costumes, very much Kirishima's. Because, I don't know, something about the fact that everything but his chest has, like, covering, it's pretty cool, especially with some of the later stuff you see down the line with his look and ability. With Kaminari ready to go at full force to show off what he can do. However, 1B enters the scene, ready to come in and start training, with the Vlad King kind of trying to kick everyone out. Nieto kind of talks about the fact that there's such a slim rate. It's a 50-50 pass pass fail rate, I guess you could say. And he's basically trying to bring class 1A down like he always kind of does, which it really does kind of shake them for a moment. It's just like there's only half a chance of them even passing. um, I also love the fact that Kaminari also comments on the fact that Neto's outfit isn't really that, is kind of gaudy, but he also said that he didn't want anything eccentric for his costume, which is exactly what his costume looks like. Um, Tokiyami does take into consideration what Naoto said, saying that it's just like, it's very true. It's something to be considered. We had been so focused on training that we never really considered the fact that, there's always a chance it might not go our way. Um, However, both Vlad and um, Shota, I mean, uh, yeah, yeah, his name is Shota. I'm like Shota Todoroki and Shota Aizawa. Um, but Aizawa talks about the fact that it's kind of being split up as well, in the fact that there's three different locations. Class 1A and Class 1B, and will be in separate locations. So there's at least a little bit more of an opportunity for everyone as a whole, which for a moment there, Naruto has a moment of, where he breathes a sigh of relief in the fact that, he won't have to compete against Class 1A. So, a little bit of an insight into the fact that he was just kind of projecting his worries as a whole. Um, we also have some comments by a lot of the students stating that they had not really thought about the overall situation and just how grandiose it would be as a whole. Aizawa makes a note of the fact that you'll be going up against people who are a little more trained. It's very rare for freshmen, first year students to just go into this right out the gate. And because of that, they'll be going up against people who are more trained, more capable, and have had more time to develop these skills, other than, our main cast. So we cut in with the girls kind of relaxing from all their training, kind of taking it easy to a little bit. Um, with Momo kind of explaining that she's not so much tired as her heart seems to be beating very quickly. Naturally, Minna interjects with the fact that this must be love, and of course, Momo is a little taken aback, where she kind of realizes that she's outed herself in terms of how she feels. She starts floating in the air, and the girls decide to kind of back off a bit in order to give her time to compose herself. Well, at least everyone but Minna, who wants to proceed with the conversation. However, Momo does. I mean, Uraraka, Jesus Christ. Ugh. Uraraka does notice that, she notices Deku outside training, and she has this cute little moment where all these, like, sparkles and bubbles, where she does kind of start to, realize that a lot of her feelings are deepening. And I don't so much hate this moment, as, up until this point, a lot of Uraraka's feelings towards Deku have been, very genuine. It's grown from, general, no, general having a liking to him just as a friend, to admiring him because of his hard work and dedication, to the fact that, he's always there for her and always trying to help her out, to an actual blossoming love and romance. I like the fact that Deku is oblivious to it, but not in the way of very, typical shonen protagonists, as the fact that, a lot of them are always so oblivious to matters of the heart and stuff like that, to a point where it doesn't really make a lot of sense. But here it's just like, yeah, Deku really wouldn't notice any of this because Uraraka's not constantly pining over him or showing how she feels about the whole situation. She does a well enough job of kind of hiding her truer feelings and just, kind of having moments here and there where her heart goes pitter patter and all that good stuff. And Deku is very awkward around girls and stuff like that. So it's it's a better balance than a lot of things that we see in typical shonen. And so we finally get to the provisional license exam location, the National Dagobah Arena. Yet another Star Wars reference, thank you. And so, the class steps out. They start to kind of feel their nerves overcoming them. But Aizawa gives his best pep talk, which is basically just do your best. Which it does kind of help them kind of get over their nerves to a certain degree. At least he's showing he cares. They start to kind of try to give a plus ultra, but they're interrupted by Inase Yaroshi. Yaroshi? Inase Yaroshi. There we go. I know names well. I do names good. Who is very much enthusiastic about the situation of UA. He states himself to be a big fan, which, his class kind of tells him to, settle down a little bit. Seiji, his classmate Seiji, tells him to settle down a little bit and not interrupt him, which Inase quickly bows, smacking his head, causing him to bleed. We find out that these are the students of Shinketsu High School, which is a direct rival to UA. Whereas UA is the most prominent, these guys are at least number 2 in terms of the ranking, which may be changing since UA's public appearance hasn't been that great lately. Inase, declares his love for UA, and Aizawa kind of gives the whole spiel of who he is, that he did apply to UA and, got the highest marks out of everyone who applied, but ultimately turned down his acceptance, showing that he was even more capable than Shoto Todoroki at the start of the overall series, which, gives you a little bit to chew on. Although Shoto was only going at half power too, so, there's a lot to consider on that front. A lot of students are kind of taken aback by that fact, but do realize that there's a lot of powerful characters, especially considering that Inase is like them, a first year. We also are introduced to Miss Joke, the smile hero, who has a very interesting relationship with Aizawa, which we find out is because that their agencies were so close together that they had a lot of time to interact with each other. Her Deku goes on a spiel about her quirk, which is Outburst, which basically very much like Joker Gas, throws people into a bit of a laughing fit, allowing her to, bring down the hammer of justice on them, as it were. Um, she also has it becomes a running thing with her of constantly declaring her love to Aizawa and quickly being shot down, which I have mixed feelings on this because I'm just like, man, girl, if you're actually serious about this and he keeps turning you down like this, I feel for you because it's just like, man, it's a very sad joke if that's the case, but it's very much like a straight man routine where Miss Joke gives a very overblown and out there comment. Aizawa, immediately takes the piss out of it, and everyone laughs. That's their whole relationship in a nutshell. And I love the fact that she's so colorful with these bright greens and oranges, whereas Aizawa is nothing but dark green and gray and all that good stuff. So a very interesting contrast between the two of them, and I love that. We also come to find out that she is in fact the teacher of what was the school name? Um, wh- Hold on. Well, we're introduced to Katsubutsu. Katsu Katsubutsu? Honestly, I'm gonna be right out. These characters don't really matter in the long run. Let me just be very frank about that. They're interesting characters for the moment, but they don't play as much of an important role as Shuketsu as a whole. So, while they're not bad characters, they are extremely forgettable. Um, they also have this moment where it's just like it's revealed that these are second years. I literally should have just looked at this panel. These are second years, and we're also introduced to her student. Um, oh man, I'm absolutely Shindo. God, why do I not look at this stuff? Shindo, who puts on an air of being like very flamboyant and interested in talking about, fortitude and all that good stuff, and tries to greet Bakugo, who immediately sees through Shindo's disguise, that his face doesn't really match what he's saying, which we see that he's very much, looking to crush UA, basically. Um, but we do have a little bit of a moment where it's just like UA gets to notice that they are in fact famous. But Miss Choke, references the fact that it doesn't seem like Aizawa has really gone over the actual situation with his class. But going into the overall assembly, we see all the different heroes to be in this little location crammed in like sardines. We're introduced to Mara of the Heroes Public Safety Commission, who is very tired because of all the work he's had to put in. We have 1,540 applicants, which is completely insane. And they will be going through a free for all exercise where they will have to kind of whittle down everyone involved. We also go over the fact that a lot of the hero killer stains ideology has kind of seeped into the public consciousness, in the fact that a lot of people, are starting to lose a little bit of faith in heroes and are kind of looking down on the even training of new up and coming heroes. So, the Hero Association have to kind of crack down on how they go about things. Unfortunately, only 100 people out of the 1,540 will actually even be allowed to pass. The objective is fairly simple. Everyone will have these targets placed on their body of their choosing, but it can't be covered up, and they will use you know about a total of 6 balls to try to nail these targets and on the opponent. And once all three targets on a person is lit up, they will immediately fail the test. Um, Deku Notes is very similar to the entrance exam with a bit of a kind of point system, but a little more harder since they're not going up against robots. So it creates a more interesting situation. We start to see that the location that they're in opens up and it reveals this massive, sprawling, scape with like highways, city, forest, and little lake, mountains, and a factory setting, very much like the USJ. I think that was right. The USJ. Yeah, very much. Which kind of brings up the fact that, man, there are a lot of locations in this series where it's just like, man, a lot of funding went into all of this. A lot of funding went into all of this. We also have the continued conversation between Aizawa and Joke, where she kind of says that it's kind of odd that he actually still has all 20 of his students. So they must be something special, but she still goes on about the fact that he hasn't told them about the situation. We get a conversation between, well, an explanation from both Joke and Deku going up on the fact that, since it'll be the first 100, all the classes from each school will kind of stick together because there should be 20 or so in each class. So sticking together with people who know your abilities and quirks is the best course of action. And we get to see glimpses of all the different teams and schools and whatnot. Deku says to stay in a group and not split off too much, but naturally Bakugo goes running off on his own. Though Kirishima does go off to, keep his ass in line for the most part. Todoroki also goes off, but goes with the explanation that, well, his abilities aren't really suited to being in a large group since they're so overblown for the most part. Joke explains that every year the test is different, but there's one thing that remains a constant, and that is basically the crushing of UA. Since UA is so prominent, all their abilities have been displayed during the sports festival, which, makes a lot of sense. Since UA is so much in the spotlight, the sports festival showed off all their abilities, which includes all their weaknesses as well. And because of that fact, a lot of the other schools take this opportunity to kind of just rush in on UA, which, Joke feels it was very cruel for Aizawa not to tell the students about this fact. And we say Shindo kind of leading the charge, which shows that, he was very much not, serious about admiring them. Or if he wasn't, he knew full well he was coming in to take them down completely. So everyone unleashes a volley of all their balls. Ew. However, it's disrupted by the fact that, all the students have, developed since the sports festival. This is your time to really see how much things have changed for a lot of the students. Deku no longer breaks himself with each attack and is switched from, fists to kicks. So that shows off something there. And Aizawa goes on the stage just like, I didn't tell them, because heroes have to be able to work on the fly. Heroes, big time heroes, already have their quirks known to the masses and to villains on top of that. To not be able to overcome that, shows how weak they are. With, Tokiyami compensating for the fact that, he's a mid to long range fighter, with the fact that he has, uses Dark Shadow as kind of this cloak to envelop himself. Whereas Uraraka doesn't get as nauseous and is now able to make herself float. Sero is more quickly able to dispense tape, and to an even greater degree before. Mina has more control over how she sprays out her acid. Momo is more quick on the fly with her creations. Ida, faster than ever, basically, better at his mobility. Even of all people, Mineta, has learned this new technique where he unleashes this train of his sticky fucking balls. Ew. And is able to deflect all of the other balls. There are too many fucking balls in this series. And everyone's kind of taken aback a bit, but, this was not to be unexpected. It's like, it would make no sense for the students to still have the same weaknesses, or not have be any more capable since the sports festival. With all they've learned, all they've trained, all they've been through. If anything else, they should be more capable than anybody, because of all the things they've been through and how much they've trained. And Class 1A, in a very cool action post scene, gets ready to go in. And one thing that I want everyone to keep in mind is the fact that, yes, you see a lot of the students who stuck behind, but one person you don't see here is Denki Kaminari, who has run off on his own, apparently. So, Class 1A is ready to throw down. Deku, very much taking charge of the whole situation, is ready to go in. He's leading the charge, which I love, because it's just like, it's showing how far he's come and how much he's capable of planning, and the fact that everyone's listening to him. It's just like, they know that Deku is just that capable. He has a plan. He makes, good judgment calls and decisions, so everyone follows his lead, which I think is just an amazing way of going for things. And while everyone is striving to be their own hero, I would love to just see this group just stay together throughout their hero career, even, creating their own agency together, just because they're very much working as a team and as a unit. They've come very far, and they're showing off what they can do. So, even the people who might have said that a lot of them shouldn't be as capable, hey, they're showing it off now. But, that's enough for this episode review. I've decided that I'm just going to say fuck it to trying to keep it short, as I have too many opinions, to, not get it all out there. And if people don't like it, then they don't have to watch these, honestly. It's not like I have that many followers to begin with. So, I'm just doing this because I just want to. But, hey, if you're listening to this, thanks for joining me. It's been a pleasure having you. Tell me your thoughts on this episode in the comments below. How do you feel about how far the students have come? All their new gear and equipment or abilities? How do you feel about, each of them as an individual or the class as a whole? Are you interested to see more about what they've learned or how they've grown? What do you think about the other students? Do you think they'll pose a problem? And leave me a like if you liked what I had to say about this episode, or a dislike if you didn't. It was all over the place in a lot of areas, so I'll understand if you didn't. And hey, if you want to, subscribe for more My Hero Academia. Thanks for joining me.